Okay, all set. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for the first workshop of the Illuminate Hackathon. Today, featuring Wormhole. We're very lucky today to be joined by Dev, and Dev is a developer advocate at Jump Crypto. And I listened to your or part of your podcast on Epicenter. I still have a little bit to go, but I learned a couple cool facts about you, and I hope you don't mind if I give you that type of introduction.
Sure, absolutely.
So, so Dev has been in the crypto space since about 2013. So he's absolutely a crypto veteran. He's had startups. He's taught Solidity workshops. I heard that you taught Solidity workshops in a spacesuit.
Yeah.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So today, Dev's going to talk to you today about building xApps. So we'll talk about what an xApp is. We'll also talk about the bounties and show you how you can get started. Building hands-on. So I'll go ahead and I'll hand it over to you, Dev.
Sounds good. Let me see if I can present. Share screen. All right. Hopefully this should be sharing the screen. Can everybody see the case for xDapps slide that's on my screen? Hoping that's a yes. Kevin? Yeah, okay, cool. Sorry. I can't see the chat while I'm in the present mode, but cool. So yeah, the case for xDapps. We're going to be talking today, before we get into like what Wormhole is and how to actually start building cross-chain applications. We'll be going over why would you want to build a cross-chain application in the first place. And so let's talk about that real quick. First, just a small introduction to me. As Kevin said, my name is Dev. I'm a developer advocate of Wormhole, name and profession. If you're looking to ask me questions after the talk, my Discord is spacemandev6256, and then my Twitter and Telegram is @spacemandev. So feel free to slide into those DMs, ask any questions that you have, anything about Jump, Wormhole. You just want to nerd out about Solidity or Solana or any other ecosystem that you're connecting to. Feel free to just send me a message. I'm happy to chat your ear off. So like I said, today's going to be a short presentation, and then we'll leave room for questions. We're going to have a why cross-chain. So again, why do you want to go cross-chain in the first place? What are the differences between Web 2 and Web 3 UI UX, and what is the user experience in Web 3 today, and how it can be improved with cross-chain experiences. Then we'll get into a little bit more technical talk about Intro to Wormhole, some key concepts, and some resources on how to get started. So first of all, why cross-chain? Why do you want to go cross-chain in the first place? If we think about it this way, in Web 2, the end user never needs to worry about what infrastructure the developer chose to deploy their application. For example, if I'm a customer and I'm filling out a mortgage application and I need to connect my bank account to that mortgage application, I just use the mortgage application and the bank application. It doesn't matter to me that the mortgage application was deployed on AWS and the bank application was deployed on Azure. Like, nobody cares, right? Like, the developers made their choices. I just get to use those applications in the way that I want to see, in the way that like makes sense for me as a customer. But in Web 2 or in Web 3, this is not the case. In Web 3, we have a big problem where the infrastructure that the developer chose to deploy their application is the only infrastructure that you can have composability with for applications for the end customer. And this is not great user experience. So cross-chain user experiences are better than like siloed, isolated multi-chain experiences. Especially if you do have multiple choices of infrastructure, you might have Moonbeam, Ethereum, BNB chain, all of these different multi-chains. You want to build cross-chain. You want to build that cross-chain user experience and make that as seamless as possible. Because developers choose different business, legal, or technical reasons to go cross-chain, right? Or build on different chains. Like, they might have different liquidity concerns on a chain. They might have different communities on different chains. They might have different sources of identity and who the address belongs to on different chains. So the choices the developers make should not impact the customers. The customers should just be able to enjoy the application that they're interacting with and just use that as they see fit. So let's talk about the difference between the primitives that are available to us in Web 2 and in Web 3. In Web 2, the primitives that we have access to are push state, pull state, and subscribe. And basically, the entire modern web is built on these three simple primitives. You can push data from one chain to another, or not even from chain. You can like just push data from one application to another. You can pull data from one application to another. You can query it, and then you can subscribe to changes in an application. In Web 3, when we talk about bridges, we have the ability to push state. We don't currently have the ability to pull state or subscribe. Wormhole is working on that. We're adding in more features to add the pull state and subscription features. But right now, the primitive that you have access to is the ability to push state from one ecosystem to another. So what is Wormhole? Wormhole is a fully generic cross-chain messaging protocol that connects to multiple chains. Ethereum, Moonbeam, Solana, Terra, but like this, I never update the slide because it goes out of date so quickly. The Wormhole adds new chains, I think like 1 or 2 a month. So if you go to our core contract deployments, you'll see that the Wormhole is on like half a dozen, actually more than a dozen, at least close to 2 dozen chains now. But the interesting thing is, not only are we on different chains, we're on different ecosystems. So you have all of the EVM ecosystem, but we are also on Solana, Cosmwasm, Aptos Sui, Near. Yeah, I think those are right. But those very drastic different ecosystems that have different programming paradigms and architectures, and not just in the EVM world. So if you're trying to go from like EVM to Solana or EVM to Cosmwasm, you have that capability with Wormhole. So before we get into how Wormhole works, let's talk about what Wormhole is not. Wormhole at its base layer is not prescriptive. It's a generic message passing protocol. And what that means is when we talk about applications built on top of Wormhole, like Portal, they will allow you to send tokens back and forth, but Wormhole by itself does not have that capability baked in. Wormhole at its very core allows you to send arbitrary data. Then you can build applications on top of that arbitrary data that are like, oh, I actually want to send NFTs, or I want to send tokens, or I want to invoke different applications and do all of these things. So how does Wormhole work? There is the Wormhole core contracts deployed on every chain that Wormhole connects to. So these core layer contracts can publish messages, verify messages, and execute governance. What does that mean? So these core contracts live on every Wormhole validator is running a copy of every Wormhole connected chain. And on this Wormhole connected chain is a Wormhole core layer contract. This Wormhole core layer contract is going to, when you call into it, publish a message that the guardians will pick up and sign. It can verify a message to make sure that the message actually came from an authorized chain and an authorized network. And it can upgrade itself. That's what executing governance is. It's like upgrading itself or doing any sorts of other governance-related tasks. So what are guardians? Guardians are what we call Wormhole validators. There's 19 validators. They're some of the biggest companies in the space. So like, you'll have your Pure Stake, your Jumps, your whoever. You can go on our validators page to take a look at like P2P and like all these other big names and validator companies. They run a copy of every chain that Wormhole connects to. Now, they'll wait for the consistency level. And I'll talk about what all of these things are. When a message comes in, they'll wait to see when the message gets finalized. On some chains, this is quicker than on other chains. They'll sign the message, gossip it amongst each other. When at least 13 out of the 19 have signed it, it's available for a relayer to pick up and then submit onto the target chain. Now, this gets a little confusing, so let's take a pause here and go kind of deep into it. So what is a consistency level? A consistency level for a message is how long should a guardian wait before they can sign it? So, for example, if you take a look at like ETH proof of stake, ETH proof of stake can reorder transactions within 15 minutes. Like they have a finality guarantee of about 15 minutes. What that means is after a transaction has been posted, there's about 15 minutes for someone to submit a proof of um, fraud transaction to kind of dissuade that. Whereas you have other chains like Moonbeam or any other EVM chains like Oasis or whatever else, they might have much faster finality. They don't have this proof of fraud system, and so the transaction when it's submitted gets finalized and it can't be reordered no matter what happens. Whereas in ETH, you have like up to 15 minutes where that can happen. It didn't used to be the case. In proof of work, it was, I think, 2 minute finality or 1 minute finality, something like that. Um, but yeah, so consistency level might not matter if you're just doing some simple testing. But if you're trying to send tokens back and forth, um, if you want to create a token transaction that sends tokens from one chain to another, you might want to wait until you can be sure that the chain that you're sending the tokens from, that transaction is written in stone, can't be changed. The word VAA stands for verifiable action approval. It's just a fancy name for wormhole message. So if you're ever reading VAA, you can just replace that in your head with wormhole message. Okay. Like I said, verifiable action approval. What does a wormhole message actually look like? It has a couple of things. We use the word emitter chain and emitter address to talk about what network, what chain and contract it's coming from. The interesting thing about Wormhole messages is that they can be multicast. And so, for example, we have an application on Wormhole called Pith. Pith is a decentralized oracle that allows multiple market makers to publish price feeds. And they publish price feeds through Wormhole. Wormhole creates VAAs that are signed that come from the PithNet. And then different relayers can submit them on different chains, like Moonbeam can submit them on Oasis, on Ethereum, on Binance Smart Chain, Solana, wherever else. But the thing is, they only need to be created once, and they can be submitted multiple times. So wormhole messages can have this interesting property where they can be multicast. So this is the trickiest part about Wormhole, is that there isn't a magical solution to how to submit that transaction onto the target chain. And the reason for that is that someone has to pay the gas for submitting the transaction to the target chain. And so the way we tackle this is something called relayers. Relayers are untrusted, dumb transfers to the target chain. They're simple servers, like Node.js servers or a Python server or whatever. It's in charge of just picking up the transaction from the Wormhole network and submitting it to your or anybody else's contract. Now, we have manual submission. You can do manual submission in the front end and then fetch the VAA and do that. This is suboptimal user experience because this requires the user to have gas on both the original chain and the submitting chain. Or you can use application specific relayers. So for the user, when they submit a transaction, it magically pays gas for them by charging them an additional fee. So you can attach a relayer fee to your transaction and say, oh, relayer, this relayer is going to charge you 5 cents and it's going to submit it onto a chain where it's going to pay 3 cents in gas and it's going to pocket the 2 cents, which might not seem like a lot, but if you're doing hundreds of thousands of transactions, that suddenly starts to add up to real profit. And then we're working on a system for generic relayers. Generic relayers will allow you anyone to run a set of relayers for any kind of application instead of building them for their own specific application. So as I talked about before, Portal Token Bridge is an application built on top of Wormhole that allows for transferring tokens by locking up tokens on one side and minting them on another. So you can use the Portal UI that one of our partners hosts. You can write your own UI. You can interact with it using the Wormhole SDK. So that's the Token Bridge code that you can it's a module that you can interact with that has a common asset layer. Because we're minting wrapped assets on the second chain, you want all of that to be handled by a consolidated framework. Finally, if you're if you're interacting with Portal, one of the cool things you can do is use ultralight clients. Ultralight clients is a fancy name for basically if you're going from chain to chain, you don't need to write code for all the chains. You only need to write code for the chain that you're deploying your code to. So, for example, say you're building a vault on Moonbeam, and you want people on Ethereum to be able to deposit their tokens into the vault on Moonbeam. Well, with ultralight clients, you don't have to deploy code to Ethereum, right? All you have to say is, "Hey, Ethereum, I'm going to write some JavaScript. Connect the Ethereum wallet. Ethereum users can connect their Ethereum wallet, submit their tokens, transfer those tokens, and have those be available on the Moonbeam vault. And so you have written code on Moonbeam to accept those tokens, but you don't have to write any Solidity code on Ethereum to send those tokens. You can write just JavaScript and TypeScript. You don't, and if you're going from ecosystem to ecosystem, the savings are even greater because now, like, imagine if you were going from Solana to Moonbeam. You no longer have to worry about writing Rust code in Solana. You can just write your code in Moonbeam and then use just JavaScript and TypeScript to send tokens or messages from Solana to Moonbeam. And this uses a technology called contract control transfers that we release. So if you're looking at the docs and you're wondering what this is, just look up contract control transfers and you'll be able to see it. So now if you're bought in, you want to get started, you want to start working on this, how can you get started? We have a couple of resources. Book.wormhole.com is where our docs currently sit. There's the Wormhole Explorer. This will allow you to actually look at transactions as they're happening. There's the testnet bridge UI. All of these things will be linked to in the book.wormhole.com. If you're standing up a local environment, which I highly recommend, there's the Wormhole Local Validator, and I'll show you where that is in a GitHub repo. There's also the Wormhole JavaScript SDK and the JavaScript command line tool. So I'm going to take a second, pause here for any questions. Otherwise, I want to show you how to get started with some code. Any questions? Okay. Given that there are no questions, so if I go to book.wormhole.com, you'll see a bunch of these things, all of our docs over here. If you're looking to, one of the most useful things here will be the deployed contracts piece. Deployed contracts, especially like Moonbeam, these are the contract addresses where Wormhole is deployed. Same thing with Token Bridge, etc. And the Wormhole chain IDs that you'll need for interacting with these things. If I go to GitHub and go to the xDapps book GitHub, which is under the Wormhole Foundation, and I go under projects, you'll be able to see the Wormhole Local Validator, which spins up 2 EVM chains locally. It spins up ETH and BSC, but it's just Solidity code, so like writing in Moonbeam isn't any different. You can also check out the EVM Messenger folder to how to send messages back and forth between 2 EVM contracts. If you're trying to do, or 2 EVM chains, if you're trying to do EVM in Solana, you can check out the Messenger or Xmint repo to do more advanced stuff. But EVM Messenger and EVM Token Bridge will let you do any 2 EVM chains, which I expect most of you are probably going to be doing EVM chains. So EVM Messenger and EVM Token Bridge should handle that. Okay. That's all that I have. So the last 8 minutes, I kind of want to leave up for any questions, concerns, life tragedies, any interesting things people want me to drill down on. Let me know.
Yeah, for those of y'all who have questions, you can ask your questions one of 3 ways. You can either drop it in the Q&A. I will take a look at it there. You can drop it in the chat. That's accessible as well. Or if you want to come on video, you can always raise your hand and ask it that way as well.
Dev, do you want to just share the bounties real quick?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's pull up. I think it's on the Gitcoin. Let me pull that up.
I can
Wormhole
also
bounty.
drop a link in the chat.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can share screen. Let's take a look.
Cool.
So Wormhole is sponsoring, I think, $20,000 in bounties. And so we have 3 bounties. The first is the best use of Wormhole. So like build any application. We're not prescriptive. That uses the Wormhole cross-chain messaging protocol. You can use Token Bridge. You can use ultralight clients. You can connect one chain. You can connect 10,000 chains. Whatever you want to do, as long as it uses Wormhole in some way. And then we have 2 runner-up prizes. One is the runner-up use of Wormhole, and the third is the best user experience using Wormhole. So you could stack best user experience and best use of Wormhole, or they might be given to different teams. We don't, depends on who presents and how they present. You can find more information about it here. The judging criteria is going to be split up into basically 3 sections. One, like, does it work? Is it simple to use? And I think actually the third piece should be like, is it like a viable product or something? But like, that's probably going to be the least interesting piece about it. Most of it, does your project work, and is it simple to use? Those are the 2 big requirements. And no more than a 3-minute video. It can be less, and then a public GitHub link. If you don't want to do a public GitHub link, you don't have to. You can just invite me to your private GitHub repo. That works too. So if you need to keep your project closed source for whatever reason, we of course encourage open source projects. But if you have any reason to do closed source, feel free to invite us to your repo, and then we can go from there. Yes.
That contracts page is one of my favorite pages on the on the doc site. Very important resource.
Yeah, and if you look at it, it's just we add to it constantly. Like we already have I think 22 chains on the core bridge. I think Arbitrum and Optimism are going to be rolling out soon as full read writes and everything. Yeah.
Amazing to see.
Yeah, I would definitely suggest setting up Wormhole Local Validator as a beginning task. There's also a YouTube video that I've recorded about how to set up your testing environment. I was thinking about going over it here, but I don't think that would be the most useful use of the time. So I think if people want to watch that YouTube video, let me link it. Let me find it first. We do not have good SEO on this video. I guess the word wormhole means many things. Is there a Discord or something where the hackers can be given links to message?
Yeah, absolutely. You can share the link with me, and I can post it there. It's just discord.gg/moonbeam, cool. And we have a specific hackathons channel which we'll be carefully monitoring and everything. So people.
Yeah, I can also join the Moonbeam Discord. So if anyone has any questions, they can ask me as well. I just joined. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just joined. I think I got to do capture verify. I'll take care of this in a second.
I can give you the role, I think.
Cool. Spaceman dev everywhere. Yeah, so I'll be chilling in that Discord as well. Feel free to ask any questions. Sharing, I'm Spaceman Dev on Twitter, on Telegram, anywhere you want to ask questions, feel free.
Thank you so much, Dev. This was an awesome workshop this morning.
Yeah. And I'll link the YouTube video on how to get started with like an environment as well. But like you can also just read the docs, whatever like is easiest for folks.
Sweet. And we'll be sure to post this on YouTube in the coming days. It looks like there's one more question.
Yeah, question. So have different use cases been explored yet? Cross-chain messaging, token transfers, and NFT minting. Yeah, so we have a lot of different projects building on Wormhole. So cross-chain messaging is kind of the default, like that's what Wormhole does. On top of that, you can build a bunch of stuff. So token transfers, we have Portal. NFT minting is a very interesting use case. We have a team working on a cross-chain NFT standard right now. We have a team working on, so we have the Portal NFT bridge, which allows you to bridge NFTs back and forth, but it does not let you maintain update authority. So some interesting projects that people are looking at is like, how can we have a cross-chain identity system to give you access to update authorities for NFTs that are bridged back and forth? So like that's a cool product. Building token vaults that allow you to do cool swaps as other things on token transfers. Building relayer infrastructure, building all of these other things. So yeah, there's a lot of different teams that are interested in a lot of different ways that you can use Wormhole because Wormhole is so like versatile and generic and connects to so many ecosystems.
Cool. Well, if there's no more questions, I think we can wrap up.
Yeah, I don't see any questions in the Q&A or any questions in the chat anymore. So with that, I'll just say, Dev, thank you so much for taking your time and leading us through this great workshop. There are a couple more workshops happening throughout this week. For those who are participating in Hackathon, there's one tomorrow, same time, same channel. Feel free to take a look. You should all be invited to it. If not, keep your eye on the Discord, and we'll be announcing the workshops there as well. With that, I hope you all have a great day, and we'll talk to you again later. Bye, everyone.
See you, everybody.
Thank you so much, Dev and Gloria.
Bye. See you later.